Well, what I'd like to share with you is some thoughts I had, and it really came out of Reverend Laurel's sermon last week. Last week, she described her attempts at learning, I think it was swing dancing that she was learning? She was taking dancing lessons. And the teacher really wasn't very helpful. And the interesting thing is that Laurel did not say, "Oh, I'm a bad dancer. I guess I'll just go home." Instead, she took another class, and at the next class, still wasn't a great teacher. She still was sort of stumbling around, and she's probably at the back of the room. Everybody's going this way, and she's going that way. I know it's like, because I'm terrible at taking those kinds of lessons. I can remember when disco dancing was really popular. I was married to my first husband, who was very linear and analytical thinking, and you could just say left 3 times, right 3 times, blah, 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 and he'd have the whole thing down. I can only do it by feeling it. I'm the kind of person who gets the thing from IKEA, and I start putting it together for about half an hour until I run into a problem. Then I get out the instructions. But anyway, I really admired the fact that Laurel went for a 3rd time, and she found the perfect teacher, and she really enjoyed the class. And it really struck home with me because as a tiny habits coach, basically what we're doing is, giving people strategies to be able to create new behaviors without depending so much on willpower and self-discipline, all that kind of stuff. And the biggest thing that gets in the way of most people, this is what I've seen, one of the biggest things that gets in the way of most people's ability to change behavior and to go to the next level of whatever it is they want to do or accomplish in their lives is all or nothing thinking. So I came up with the title, Winners and Losers, because especially in Western society, we tend to do a lot of dividing about winners and losers. Winner, loser, all this kind of thing. I'm just going to refer to it in general as all or nothing thinking. And it really gets in the way not only of our development as human beings, but especially in the way of our spiritual development. And so as I was thinking of this topic, it's very interesting, the whole process of creating a talk. I sort of just am opening myself to the universe, and then things pop up. I pick up a book, I see something on TikTok or on Facebook, or it's amazing how it all comes in. And the first thing that came up, I would love to share with you, because it really spotlights where all or nothing speaking is sort of a universal thing that I think that happens to all of us. And this is from Kurt Vonnegut, and he shares the story of when he was 15 years old. When I was 15, I spent a month working on an archaeological dig. I was talking to one of the archaeologists one day during lunch break. And of course, he asked those getting to know you kind of questions that you ask young people. Did you play sports? What's your favorite subject? And I told him, no, I don't play sports. I do theater, I'm in choir, I play the violin and piano, and I used to take art classes. And the archaeologist went, wow, that's amazing. And I said, oh no, but I'm not good at any of them. And then he said something I will never forget, and which absolutely blew my mind because no one had ever said anything like this to me before. I don't think being good at things is the point of doing them. I think you've got all these wonderful experiences with different skills and different lessons you've learned, and it makes you a very interesting person, no matter how well you do them. And then Kurt goes on to say, honestly, it changed my life because I went from a failure, someone who's not talented enough to excel, to being someone who did things just because I enjoyed them. I had been raised in such an achievement-oriented environment, so inundated with the myth of talent, that I thought it was only worth doing if you could win at doing it. And how many of us in this room have held off from doing something and discounted it because we felt we weren't enough? Anybody else besides me? And not only that, but we discount the thing. You know, I can remember way back about, probably 15 years ago or more, I went to visit a good friend of mine who was a great knitter. And at that point, I was not into knitting. I was more into scrapbooking and that kind of thing. Different stages that we go through. And I watched her, and she was knitting socks. And I looked at her with these teensy little tiny needles, and not only that, but 4 needles that you had to. And I said, who would ever want to waste their time knitting socks? So I sort of discounted, because I thought, I could never manage all those tiny needles. I've now knitted more than 125, probably someplace between 120 and 150 pairs of socks. But I had to get past that point. How many times do we look around, especially when we're younger, especially when we're teenagers, oh my goodness, that we don't try something because we just don't think we can be really good at it. So we close that door. We close that door to our own evolvement. We shut off in the same way our own spiritual evolvement by not willing to try new things. And by this all or nothing kind of thinking, because those very things are the very opportunities for us to grow. In fact, I dare say they're probably one of those things that you're hesitating to do because you don't think you'd be good enough, the best anti-aging serum there is. I've been dealing a lot, as you know, with older adults with my classes and my, Thrive After 65 and all that stuff that I'm doing. And between my experience of doing all this extra reading now about the aging process and the fact that I've taken care of older people like myself for now more than a decade, the biggest difference are the people who are insistent that everything has to be the same way, and if it's not the same way, then forget it. And the people who are willing to stretch and grow. Those are the people who have resilience. And that's what we need, not only at the age of 95, we need it at 65, we need it at 35, and we need it at the age of 15. Resilience. And the resilience comes from being willing to try. Willing to put ourselves out there. So another spiritual leader that I came across with a perfect thought for me was Eckhart Tolle. And all of us, I think, in this room are pretty familiar with Eckhart. He really specializes in talking about the importance of living in the present moment. And here's what he says, and I think this is so perfect. It is not uncommon for people to spend their entire life waiting to start living. When I have the perfect boyfriend, my life will be perfect. When I have the perfect job, everything will be all right. When I get to my goal, life will be different. That's so interesting. One of the observations that I've been making is that actually when we get to our goal, we're going to have to probably still be doing the same things that it took for us to get to the goal, to keep at the goal. You know what I'm saying? So one of the sayings that I go by, and I get it from my daughter Amy, it's joy in the journey. It's so important to have joy in the journey. Whatever you are working towards or evolving toward, being that thing as though it's already there. Being the essence of whatever that is that you think you're going to have it now. As Eckhart says, if we keep thinking, well, I'll have it in the future, guess what? The future is never, never land, because it's only can be there in the now. And so instead of putting things off or feeling like less than or slogging through life to get to whatever that goal or that destination might be for you, it's important to actually enjoy the things that you're doing to get to that goal. And not just put off feeling good for someday, somewhere, someplace out there in the future. Start living your full life now. Don't be spending your life waiting to start living. It's in the present moment that we grow. It's in the present moment that we can change life. It's in the present moment, only in the now, that we can be the peace and the comfort and the joy that we would like to see expressed in this world. And then there's another thing about this all or nothing thinking. It's either I'm all in this emotion or all in that emotion. And Sundragon put it very well, perfect for today, because I think sometimes we don't give ourselves permission to see the kaleidoscope of emotion that it is. And we tend to dive into one part of the emotion, gloom and doom, or depression, or feeling lonely, and all of these kinds of things, without realizing that in every day and every moment, there is a myriad of possibilities of other ways to feel. Thich Nhat Hanh really brings this home because he talks about happiness. And happiness is not about some big glorious, it's about the little tiny details of life that you can have in your darkest days, that you can have in days when you're unsure of yourself and you're even unsure of the world. And here's what he has to say. The practice of mindfulness is to enjoy happiness in whatever we do. Cooking is happiness because we have food, we have a kitchen, and we have a stove right here. Sweeping is happiness. Washing dishes is happiness. We have the right and the capacity to be happy at every moment. If we can do that, we don't need to stress ourselves over trying to attain anything else, because happiness is really in the present moment. And I think that's really such a big spiritual lesson for us right now, in this present moment. And then here is probably the most important spiritual message from all of this winner, loser, all or nothing kind of thinking. A lot of this all or nothing, winner, loser, comes from judgment. We judge ourselves. We think we're not enough. And our ego's way of bulking us up is to point out at all the others who aren't enough, or who don't dress the same way we do, or look the same way we do, or behave the way we think they should behave. Huge lesson there. I went to a movie, it was a great movie. I think it's the highest producing billions of dollars Pixar movie that has ever been produced. It's out now, it's called Inside 2. If I had my way, I would insist that every middle school kid go to this movie. It is about a young teenage girl. She's about 11 or 12. Her parents love her. She loves her parents. She has dear friends that she is taking care of. She loves to play hockey, and she's a high scorer on her little hockey team, and life is good. And you can see all the little different emotions in her brain who are, reacting to all the things that are going on. And then the movie suddenly changes tone. Boom! Puberty has set in. And what does puberty tell you? I am not enough. How many of us still live with that? I'm not enough. And so in order to prove that she's enough, she wants to go to the bigger hockey team at summer camp. There's going to be a hockey camp. She wants to go to that. So she deserts her friends. And she tries to be like the other girls. And she changes her hair, and she changes what she says, and she makes up little fibs so she can fit in better with those who will make me feel like I'm enough. And she even does some things that are dishonest. How many times have we pushed ourselves into situations out of that same kind of need? How many times do we become competitive and judgmental because we feel we're not enough? How many times do we not try for things because we feel, well, unless I can really do it well, why even try? Probably one of the biggest blocks to creativity is just that thing. We don't want to start until we know we can be perfect. I know for myself, coming from a background of advertising and sales and marketing, many, many hours of writing copy, writing advertising copy, marketing copy, and so on and so forth. And the only way to do it is to be willing to write something stupid. Because you know you keep on going back and revising it. And if only we'd be more willing to just jump in and know that God is showing up through us. And let that shine forth. Instead of holding on to this need to look good, be with the right people, and all of that kind of stuff, which is all born of this all or nothing kind of attitude. You have to be a winner or else you're going to be a loser. So, I want you to pause for just a minute and I want you to close your eyes. And I want you to put just a gentle smile on your face. Take in a deep breath. And I want you to just imagine this. I want you to imagine a feeling, a deep sense of assurance that you are truly, truly loved. You are free right now. Free from the past, empowered in the present, that you are strong, you are joyous, you are creative, you are secure. All is well. Just bathe in that for a few more seconds. When we feel this way, there's no need to prove anything to anybody else, is there? There's no need to judge. There's no need to be the first or the best or have the perfect life. We know that perfection is right here. That we are the blessed place where God shows up. So here's a couple of suggestions of things to do to get a little bit more of that feeling. I would suggest that one thing you might want to do this week is try one thing. Even if it's taking a different way home this afternoon from the Mindful Spiritual Center. Try something new just for the fun of it, without worrying about whether you're good enough or all of that kind of stuff. And then, secondly, self-awareness. Exactly what Sun Dragon talked about today. Self-awareness is so important. Be like Eckhart Tolle. Be conscious enough of what's going on in your head that you can actually stop and smile at your brain and say, oh, there it goes again. There it goes, being an insecure self and wanting to keep everything the same. Thank you for your feedback, but I've made another decision. Self-awareness. So that's why in so many spiritual traditions, whether it is meditating, journaling, some form of self-awareness is so important, because we can only really jump into life and make physical changes and mental and emotional changes when we're in touch with ourselves and when we're in touch with our higher power. And finally, dare to experience moments of happiness, even if your life is full of challenges at this moment. You can still smile. There is more to life than just one emotion. It is a kaleidoscope, exactly as Sun Dragon said. Thank you so much, Sun Dragon, for tuning into my mind. And that's all I have to say today. It's not about winning or losing. It's about experiencing. It's about being the place where God's light can show up through us out into the world that desperately needs it. Thank you.